for sale as you see this video. And my reason for that is my brother and I want to buy a house here relatively soon, hopefully within the next 6 months. And even if we don't buy a house, I just have way too many projects and not enough time and not enough money to go around to fix all of them. So ultimately, I want to get down to having about 4 vehicles. I want one truck, which is my 2018 Ram 3500 6.7 6-speed truck. One daily. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but currently it's my V6 Mustang. That's also for sale, and I'll eventually move to a different Mustang once that one's fixed. I want 2 project cars. Ultimately, one of them I want to be like a decent street combo that I can just drive around, go to car shows, do some random stuff here and there. And the other one I want to be like a dedicated autocross / road race build kind of car. So probably more leaning towards autocross because that's basically what's in my state. But I would also like to go to places like Brainerd or I believe Nebraska has a track, and I believe over in Helena or something like that in Montana might have one. Denver, I can go down there. But those places are like 10 hours away plus. So ultimately it's going to be an autocross car. So anyway, let's get into the 411 here. I'll talk about all the parts that I have. I'll talk about all the work that I've done. There may be things that I end up forgetting because this vehicle I haven't worked on in probably over 2 to 3 years. So there will be things that I miss. Just a quick note, if there are parts that I end up finding later on that aren't with the car, say you bought the car and 6 months later I clean out a Conex or something and I find another part, I'll ship it to you, no cost to you. It belongs with this car. I want it to stay with this car. Not only that, it also clears up storage for me, so it's win-win for both of us. Even though I have to spend money to send it to you, it's ultimately my fault if something doesn't end up with the car that should have been with it. So I'm not going to blame you for that, and I'm not going to make you pay to ship it. It's not your fault. So I know that there's 2 rear backing plates that I can't find for some reason from when I converted it from drum to disc. So I know I have to find those. But anyway, let's get out of that and let's start diving into all the work that's been done to it. Obviously, you can see that the hood's off of the car, and we'll go engine first, work our way back, and go through all the stuff. So let's get into it. It's going to be a little shaky here pulling you off the tripod. Come on. There we go. So diving into the engine bay here, you can tell that there's no engine harness in it. The reason for that is it never had a key to start. It had a push button to start when I bought it, and it was a really janky setup that I didn't like. And ultimately, I didn't like the fact that somebody could just break into my car, start it up with the push button to start, and just drive away with it. Especially with it looking as unique as it does. It's a real eye turner, and I just didn't want to risk the car being stolen with how much money was in it. So anyway, I went to go put in a switch panel up under the dash. And while I was testing, I left the battery hooked up, and I didn't take the time to disconnect the battery to install the panel once everything was done and finished. Well, I ended up pinching a wire in between the dash and the switch panel and shorted it out and burned up the ignition and starter circuit on the engine harness. So I do have the original harness where you could just fix it and go from there. But I also have pretty much everything except for I'm keeping my connectors because I use them for other things. So you'd have to buy new connectors and stuff, but I have things like fuse panels, relays, switches, battery, that sort of deal. Basically, to redo the car, you'd have to do wire and you would have to do connectors on your own. But that's where we're at with that. Other thing you'll notice is the wipers are out of the car. I do have all the stuff to do that. They were not working when I bought the car. I tried to pull it apart to get it to work. I couldn't really figure it out. But if you're handy with rebuilding that stuff, more power to you. You can tell that this linkage is still on the passenger side. It was seized on there. I actually ended up breaking the driver's side. I did buy a used set from somebody from Australia, I believe. And I should have everything to rebuild that. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure I got everything for that. Updated the brakes to all disc brakes. I got a dual master Datsun 510 for the brakes. And then I do have stuff to redo the clutch side. This is a brand new clutch master cylinder up top, but I did not do the bottom. I can't remember if it's Datsun 510 clutch master as well, but just so you know that. Brand new voltage regulator up there. Funny story about that is I actually bought this car from Autorama in Dickinson, and I actually worked at Wyoming Casing at the time, and they're about, I don't know, maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles at most apart. And I drove it up to the yard, and when I pulled up to the yard, the car died on me and would not start. my dad and I started running a test light on things. We weren't getting spark, and we ended up tracing it back to the voltage regulator, called up CarQuest. They ended up having one on hand. I called all the parts stores, but CarQuest ended up having one. Went down there, picked it up, installed it. Car fired right up, but I drove it home that day after work. So other than that, it didn't skip a beat until I went to go do that switch panel and burn the harness up. So engine did run flawlessly. It had this Weber carb set up when I bought it. Unfortunately, you're just going to have to trust my word because I can't start it, but we can pull spark plugs and I can figure out a way to wire the starter to a battery and we can turn it over, do a compression test. I also have a bore gauge to go inside and run a camera in there if you wanted to do that. We can do that as well. And yeah, so that's where we're at with the engine stuff. Let's move into the inside, or I guess we'll go over the brakes real quick. So we got disc brakes all the way around with brand new bearings and all the hubs, and also brand new studs and everything with new lug nuts as well. So starting with the fronts, and I'll find pictures of the receipts for everything so you know exactly what the companies are. But the fronts are an Infinity G20 rotor and caliper. This kit is made by a guy, I believe his name is Blue Hand Inc. or Blue Hand Machinist. Again, I'll find the receipts to make sure that I get the right links for you guys. I don't even know if he still makes the kit anymore, but I'll put it up there in the link or in the description of the vehicle. So anyway, there's that. The rear is a Willwood 4-piston kit, and I believe it's actually for a Datsun 620 pickup truck. Don't quote me on the model, but again, I'll find my original receipts and go from there. So other than that, on the exterior, it does have a little bit of rust on the bottom that will need to be fixed. You could leave it patinaed if you wanted. Let me make sure the camera's pointing in the right spot here. And we'll go over all the rust spots as we go, but we'll dive into the interior here. The driver's door handle does need to be fixed. I just leave the rear quarter window open, and that's how I get in. So dash had a bunch of stickers on it when I bought it. I removed a ton of them. Here we go. I removed a ton of them, but I just didn't like the look of it. They had a bunch of stuff that was messed up in here. The Nardi wheel does not go with the car. That actually is for another project. I just pulled it off because I needed a steering wheel for it. Anyway, for those of you wondering, it is an NRG quick release with an NRG short hub. I don't have it bolted on, obviously, as you see me pull it off. But in case you're wondering, Datsun 510 620 or Datsun 510 short hub from NRG does work on. It has the same spline count as the Datsun 510. We got the nut sitting on the steering wheel to bolt that on. I wasn't sure how I was going to do the horn setup. That's why I didn't bolt it. I was still trying to figure all that out. So anyway, it will come with the quick release, just not the steering wheel. This is the RPM gauge they had in there. It didn't work. I was just going to pull it out. No big deal there. I do have the triple switch panel. The actual heater controls here weren't in the car. I actually found those in the storage bin for all the parts that came with it, and I installed those. I believe the fan actually worked when it was wired up and not fried, but don't quote me on that. You might have to fix that. So other than that, I guess I could show you a quick mileage shoot. Probably has about 178,000, but I can't quote you on exactly what it is because it doesn't have the third position there. Showing you the back. Interior is honestly not that bad. It's pretty clean. Needs wiped down, of course. Got one tear in the passenger seat where they got black duct tape on it. But there's that for you guys. Let me close this door as well. This door's not closed. And then the rears here for the trunk, that's where a lot of the rust issues actually is. Let me see if I can get a good shot for you guys. It'll be easier showing you from the trunk. But there's that. I gotta grab the keys to do the trunk, but I got new light covers for the back. Showing you underneath real quick. I did redo all the suspension bushings and stuff in the rear and in the front. So if I can point that camera up, you can see it's got new energy suspension bushings in the back. I actually have an extra set of these rear ones here. So if you had another 411, or if you wanted to sell them to somebody else who's got a 411, you can make some money back out of it that way. I also updated the leaf spring bolts on it, and also did shocks all the way around, KYB units. I'll have pictures for all that stuff. I got all the part numbers and stuff for everybody, so that way they knew exactly what I used. Show you the front bushing and the leaf spring as well. let me see. I hate that the GoPro's camera screen shuts off. You can see the new black bushings in there. Give you a close-up on the 4-piston brake kit in the back. I do have an extra set of lug nuts here. I noticed they're getting a little rusty, so I got a brand new set for whoever needs them. The fronts. I wonder if I can get in here and get a good shot of the fronts. But this has brand new sway bar bushings. Brand new end links on the sway bar. I also got new isolators on the top and bottom on the coil spring. And then you can see them KYG shocks in there. So there's that. I also have brand new bump stops to go with it. I can't remember why I didn't put them in, if they didn't work or what the deal was, but I got all that stuff for them. Let me grab these keys here, get the trunk popped, and we can go in all this stuff in there. Because that was actually where I left off with working on it, on the trunk side. So this is the original wheel they had on the car, and I'll show you the janky setup that they had going on when we go over the parts selection. This cardboard on the back, I was actually going to build a metal plate for this. If we actually fold this down, come on, there we go. You can actually see I converted the front to a metal plate already, so if you end up in an accident or something, and the tank starts on fire, it's not going to immediately get into the cab, and you and the passengers are going to be in immediate danger. You actually got a little bit of time to get out of the car, so that's why I converted the back to metal. This one, honestly, you could probably reuse. It's not in as bad shape as the front one was. The front one was pretty hammered, so that's why I redid the front. You could reuse this one, but I was going to build a metal panel. The reason for this cardboard here, the spare tire cover was absolutely thrashed. There wasn't anything left of it, really. Plus this brand new spare with the Suzuka MSTs, or MST Suzuka wheels. They're an Enkei RPF1 copy, and Nitto Neogen tires. They're a little bit wider and a little bit taller than the factory wheels. So I was going to build an MDF panel board to go over the top of it. I was basically just going to make gussets that come out to the outside and then fit it real nicely up against the trunk. Make sure it was actually like a direct fit. And then I was going to cut the center out similar to what the stock one was like. That way you could just pick it up, get to your spare tire, and then the sides would still be in there covering up everything, so you could have like your groceries or whatever sitting over here, and you didn't have to unload the entire trunk in order to get to the spare. So that's kind of what I was in the process of doing. You can tell that I had the cardboard getting lined out. If we pull this up, you can kind of see the rust here. I was using that roll of papers to hold it up to get it to the right height, but now you can see that it's all sagged down for putting parts and stuff on top of it. So that's where we're setting in the trunk. Anyway, that's about it on this that I can think of. Let's dive into some of the parts. I think I'm going to start with the old stuff and work my way to the new stuff. So, starting on the ground here, let me just move this over to here. We got the old brake hardware and stuff. I kept everything in case you wanted to ever convert it back to original. You can't really get this stuff anymore, especially things like the brake shoes and some of the master cylinder stuff. I got the original master cylinder and clutch master for the brake and the clutch. The original carburetors in here, horns in here, spacer plates for the brake or for the backing plates. I got old ball joints in here, brake shoes, brake lines, all sorts of stuff for that stuff. So also have some of the lines here and master cylinders as well. Brake drums, miscellaneous stuff in that box, nothing really too big. We got the engine harness here. I labeled as much stuff as possible. It wasn't original, to be honest with you. It had this style fuses in there, which is already somewhat modernized. I just didn't like the look of it, to be real with you. And I wanted to upgrade some of these connectors to newer style connectors because they're getting old and you can't really get these style connectors anymore. At least I don't know where to get them anyway. So I took a bunch of pictures and I got a bunch of stuff on my laptop. As long as nothing's corrupted, I should be able to create a zip file for whoever buys it and send it to you. So there's that. We got the original 411 Nissan intake. And then for this stuff here, this is actually out of a 620 pickup truck. I bought a L20B that I was hoping to convert into this car later on. It's not in the greatest of shape. It's a little rusty in the bores and stuff. So if you want it, I'll throw it in with the car, 100 to 200 bucks, something like that. you can honestly probably take it. We got radiator with the fan set up for the 620 and also the intake for it, and I'll show you the engine later on. Maybe I'll cut that in the end of the video. So there's that. We also got the rear floor mats for it, brand new windshield rubber. And then starting left to right, we got the grill stuff to go back in the car, extra caps for the wheels. This bag right here is the hardware to remount these lens covers, or the light cover deals. Not exactly sure what these are for. I can't remember, to be honest with you. Miscellaneous hardware here, spare tire hardware here that doesn't work no more. I bought a spare heater core just in case that it leaks, because those, you know, heater cores tend to leak, and it's hard to find radiator shops that can repair stuff anymore. Most people just replace stuff, so it's hard to buy that stuff. Bunch of old cables here. The hood release cable I actually replaced. So one of them was broke. The other one was also broke, but on the other end. So you could take two and make one. Windshield washer bottle. I got the original fuse set up for the car. I actually bought these from Tana. I got a cover that goes with it, and I have the actual fuses themselves. If you wanted to make it completely original, feel free to do that. Got the original hardware from doing the suspension bushings and that sort of deal. I kept everything, so I didn't throw nothing from the car. I got the original voltage regulator. All this stuff was fuel stuff that came with the car when I bought it. Like I said, it was already Weber carb set up. You got your sway bar end links here. You got miscellaneous suspension bushing stuff. These are like the rubbers that go on top of your shocks. Original studs, castle nuts for the ball joints. These are the original bolts that came out of the upper control arms, I believe, and nuts that went to the lowers, if I remember correctly. Excuse me. These are the original isolators for the front springs. I actually have an extra set of the ones that went on the bottom. That would be these ones. These ones are the ones that went on the top, if I'm remembering correctly. I could be completely wrong, and it could be vice versa, but anyway, I got an extra set of those. I bought these spring isolators because I thought that it would stiffen up the ride a little bit and kind of help help save the springs, basically. They didn't end up working, but I do have them. These are the bump stops that I was going to put in the front control arms, I believe. Or maybe they're for the rear leaf springs. I'm not exactly sure which ones they were for. They didn't end up working, but I'll throw them in with the car anyway. Got stainless or braided steel brake lines. I'm not sure if these were supposed to be for the front or for the rear. Just happened to find them with some conversions. Feel free to do whatever you want with them. These are the extra rear leaf spring bushings for the rear leaf spring. So an extra set of those if you wanted to sell it to somebody who needs them. This is the coil that was on the car for when it was running with the igniter. This is an extra one. I'm assuming they replaced it and just kept it. I'm not sure if it's good or if it's bad or what. Extra, I can't think of what this is called, but the spinny deal that goes on the distributor, that's what connects with your caps and fires it. So can't think of what it's called though. Got your distributor wires all labeled to what cylinder they go to. This is all your wiper hardware that I was talking about. I got the new covers for it, and you know, threads need to be cleaned up a little bit, but these ones are the ones that I bought from Australia. This is the original one that came off the car. You can tell because it's got the broken nut on it. So basically what ended up happening is it was seized to this deal. I tried to spray it, heat it up, all sorts of stuff, and ended up snapping the threads off of it. So they're not fixable really, but is what it is. Anyway, there's that for all this stuff on this table. Oh, real quick for the steering wheel setup. This is the original hub that goes on it, and they basically just had this screwed into here. This was secured, but then this went over the steering wheel and was just self-tapered into here and was really loose and could fall off at any time. So I didn't like that. That's why I went with the NRG short hub with quick release. Way more safe. Your steering wheel's not going to fall off. Everybody wins. Diving into the new stuff. So we got brand new OEM switches ordered from Japan on eBay for the triple switch panel. This is the bracket that's actually for the switches that goes underneath the dash. And it goes, this spot right here goes where your hood release goes. This bolts to where one of the steering wheels goes. And these two bolts go on your brake bracket, your brake pedal bracket. This is the switch that goes in here. You got ignition, fuel, starter. That's exactly how that works. Pretty easy. It also comes with all the wiring diagrams on how all this wires up. You can tell exactly where I shorted it right here. This wire is the one that got pinched when I put it in the car. So got your battery on off. You can put this basically anywhere you want. This switch panel you really don't need, but if you wanted to rewire the entire car with your lights or whatever, and you didn't want to use the original switches, feel free to do that. If you don't want this, I'll keep it. I'll throw it in another car. Not a big deal. Same thing with any of these other deals. If you wanted to rewire the car to be original and you didn't want this stuff, we can lower the price of the car a little bit, and I'll keep all these components and I'll throw them in another build. So no big deal. This is just a universal bracket for the Busman fuse box. This Busman fuse box is 5 mini relays, 10 normal fuses, mini fuses. 5 of them run the relays, 5 of them don't. I can't remember how you would tell. I had it all labeled out and stuff, but all my markings are gone off of it. But yeah, you can just look at where the pins go and figure it out from there if you're fairly smart with wiring. I also have a wiring diagram that I literally highlighted every circuit on there so you can tell exactly what wire goes where. So it'll make it way more easy for you to wire everything up. This is just the Joe Racing switch covers to go with the 4-position switch panel. If you wanted that, extra tie rod in. I bought tie rods, and left and right are actually threaded different, and they ended up being the same thread, so I had to order another set. So got an extra set. I'm not sure which side this is. I wonder if it says. I think it's right, RE. So anyway, this panel right here, if you wanted to add another set of relays, so basically, let me backpedal. So you got your normal fuse panel right here. This spot right here, you can either cut off or you can use. This is for a switch style relay. So basically, it'll just blow the switch and you just come under the hood, reset it. There's no fuse, no nothing there. It's a switch style relay, that's all it is. And you can utilize whatever size amperage you want, and you can use that to run to your starter. So if for some reason your starter wire shorts out, then you can just reset it up here. If you don't want to use this, you can utilize something like this, which is what you would use for like subwoofers or something, where you can have an inline fuse and go that route. So your choice on how you want to do it. You can do either or. That's up to you. This is just extra fuse holders that were with the car. That's the style that was on it. I didn't like it. Your lug nut deals to pull off your spline lug nuts. This is the passenger side hardware for redoing your headlight adjusters, like I was telling you. This is the part number for the energy short hub, if you're curious on that. Extra shift knob. And then diving into this stuff I actually think is pretty cool. So just so none of you guys in the US waste your money doing this, the Japanese clear turn signals are too small. They do not work. So unless you're going to do body work to put these smaller ones on, it's not going to work. They're way too small. I can actually take this one up to the front, and then I'll actually compare it as well. Boom. Let me click the screen so I can make sure you're seeing it. See how much smaller that is? So unless you actually fill that hole in, it's not going to work. I do actually like the look of these a lot more. They're a lot more slim, a lot more trim. Looks really neat. Unfortunately, they don't work. So, and I believe the Australian ones are the exact same. So there was actually a gentleman or a lady, I can't remember who it was. This was maybe 2 years ago already. Went into a company in Australia and got a bunch of us to put a down payment on these lens covers. And I ended up getting these clear lens covers for the front. We can actually do a quick comparison of the size difference here, just so you can see it. So it's like almost a little over half, like maybe 2/3 the size of the original light. So I got clears for the fronts, brand new ones for the rear. Compare these to these ones here. These ones are real dark. I don't know if they sprayed them or fogged them or what. But this is as close as I could get to these original lights. These ones are smooth. You can tell that this one has a little bit of a divot in them. And I'm not sure if it's a style thing or a difference in year or a difference in where it was manufactured. But I noticed that looking for these Datsuns, because 65 and 66, I believe, have a different style rear lens cover than 67. 67 was completely different, if I remember correctly. It could be vice versa. It could be 65 was different and 66 and 67 were the same. But I'm pretty sure 67 was a year on its own when it had the single light here. I believe 66 and 65 were dual light configuration. But I don't quote me on that. I know I was looking at pictures a while ago on it. You can also tell the difference here in the grill too. So real quickly, if you look at pictures of different your Datsun 411s and 410s, this style grill was usually only available on the SS's. If I could be completely wrong, and you guys can correct me in the comments, but this style grill I could only find on SS cars. So I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with that. So you can actually look at them, and the majority of them had an indent in the center, and they had this style badge on them that went right in the center there. So just a quick thing, a couple of quick things anyway. So anyway, that's basically all the parts that I have for the car and exactly what I was planning. One thing that I forgot to go over though real quick is obviously the speakers will go with it. So if you wanted to wire in speaker boxes or whatever, you can do that. But this yarn here, you're probably thinking, what the hell is the yarn for? Well, what it's for is for you to actually build a new engine harness like I was going to do. So if you're not going to reutilize the stock harness, I was basically just going to use it to trace. This is going to be your saving grace. So basically what you're going to do is you take the harness, you route your main line with the yarn, cut it to size so that way you know how long it needs to be. And then each branch, you're going to cut a separate piece of wire and you're just going to tape it to the original one until you build your entire loom out of it. That way you know where it needs to split off the harness. You know exactly how long it needs to be. You don't have to measure 50,000 times on the car. You already have a template of the yarn. This was already in the car. You know it's going to fit. And then you can just build your entire harness on the table. And you don't have to keep going back and forth and test fitting in the car. It saves you time, saves you effort, saves you money too, I guess, because time is money. So anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I hope you guys really liked the Datsun. I hope it goes to a really good owner. Oh, I guess one more thing here. Paperwork. So I got two 510 owner's manual or 411 owner's manuals for some reason. These are the wiring diagrams we'll go over in a minute. Maintenance schedule. I've honestly never even looked in here to see if they even wrote anything. I'm not sure why I didn't. I usually do. So bought in 67, and then after that looks like nothing. Okay, so this is the different stuff you're going to need for doing the wiring. This is showing you how to hook up your battery shut-off switch. This one here is your switch panel for doing the start button, ignition, and auxiliary switch. That one I would make into your fuel personally, but they show that you can do it to your battery disconnect as well. This is for the 4-position switch panel. If you wanted that one, let me know. That's basically it. And then if you're a North Dakota resident, you'll make out with these 67 Datsun plates. So let me know. Thank you guys very much for watching. Comment down below if you got any questions. Hit me up on Facebook, whatever the case may be. It's also going to be on Bizman. So thank you guys very much for your interest. I appreciate your guys' time. I know the video is kind of long, but thank you guys very much. Have a wonderful day. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to keep you here. I know the video is already really long, but I thought that I should probably show you the L20B motor in case you end up being curious about that. So it's out of a later 70s 620 pickup. I went down all the way to South Dakota during the Rona in order to get it when you weren't supposed to travel. So, oh well. Too late to get in trouble now. So anyway, this is the L20B motor that I was going to put in the 411. Doesn't have the oil filter deal on there, but I basically plugged up as many holes as I could to keep it as clean as possible. That's the exhaust manifold for it, sitting on the floor, so if you wanted to build a custom setup, you could. Basically, pretty much the majority of it is there. Doesn't need a lot of work, probably needs gone through. No idea how many miles are on it. I basically paid like $100 or something for it, so I can't even remember anymore. Anyway, the main issue with swapping the L20B into a 411 that you guys are going to notice is the master cylinder for both the clutch and the brake are on the same side that your intake and your exhaust is on basically every Datsun engine. Luckily the J13 and the, I believe it's the RL something or other, R16 maybe, something of that nature that came in the 411, they're small enough to where they'll actually fit. So unfortunately when you go up to this one, I think that it's going to be in the way of hitting your master cylinder. You might get lucky to where it might be like in this range right here, and you can just trim these brackets down and that sort of deal and eliminate some hoses and reroute stuff and get it to work. Ultimately, you might have to convert yourself to an ITB setup that points upwards and sends the carb up and out. or possibly down, or maybe make a custom manifold. I'm not exactly sure what a guy's going to have to do to make it fit, but that's up to you guys. If you want to try it, be my guest. I'll include it with the engine or with the car, I guess. Might as well. Saves me the room and keeps the stuff that I wanted with the car to be with it. So anyway, that's it for everything that I got for you guys. Apologize for keeping you an extra 2 minutes. If you like what you're seeing, hit like, hit subscribe. I'll try and get more content out more regularly. Thank you very much for viewing. Have a wonderful day.